Yo. Yo, Max, move so I can try to find you again. Alright, shit, okay. I have moved. I'll warn you, it is extra hard difficulty today. Found it Insta. All right, well, if you think it's a little too bullshit though, because you guys are like already looking at it, and then you're just waiting for something to change. So, fuck you, fuck you. Yo, anyone watch this current season of Love Island? I'm getting caught up on it now. I'm like halfway through. Shit's crazy. That's premium slop. Yeah, it is. It's great. It's great bad TV. That's my dream date, and he knew that. Yeah, I just watched. I think I'm like 2 episodes past that. Someone in chat said no, but my wife did. She told me that the way you talk reminds her of the people on that show. What? What do you mean by that? What is? What? Like what? Like I'm trying to like hit that Zoomer lingo or? Wait, what? I actually have no idea. Oh, the type shit and stuff. Oh yeah, so it's the Zoomer lingo thing. Yes. We got Zoomers in our guild, bro, and they say shit and then it catches on. What can I say? Dude, why do I love these streams? Nothing ever happens. What? I mean, something happens or else you wouldn't love it, right? It's just low effort. That's all. Have you listened to Dementious music? It goes insanely hard. I have not, no. It's legit insane. All right, shit, we'll look at it. We're also going to me and Dranos today are gonna rank all the new raid bosses. Stream over 2 hours. Don't get your hopes up, buddy. Don't get your hopes up, buddy. Is Trill still playing in the race? Yeah. He'll be here this year. Does he know you are doing that, or are you just yo bro surprise? No, I told him. When are you talking to the community about tier sets and spec states? Soon? I guess. I don't know. Like, ideally, the time frame for that is it's never scheduled. It's always just I just randomly decide to do it whenever it feels right. And to describe whenever it feels right is as close to the patch as possible, so the information is as accurate and relatable as possible, right? Because there's still tuning that's happening. And then also not too late to where, you know, that content isn't out before the patch. So basically, like right before the patch, I guess. Do you ever take a bubble bath, by the way? I have before, yeah. We have some bath bombs in the house. I've ripped that shit. I don't do it like Shroud, though. I don't like doing nothing and staying stationary for too long. Like without stimulation, I guess. Just like chilling in the bath. That's not stimulating enough for me, so I usually don't do it for a very long period of time. Like that's actually why I don't get my hair cut a lot, and like why I usually wait until I look extremely homeless to where I have to go rather than going so you look good all the time. It's because I just can't stand sitting in a chair for like an hour and a half. You know, it's just a lot of time. Got to be doing something. Where the hell are you getting your hair did that it takes an hour and a half? Um, it's closer to an hour and 15 minutes, but I get like I go to a first of all, my stylist is great. Shout out Claudia. But I would say like half of it's the hair and like half is the beard trim. My beard's like pretty long and requires a lot of shaping and stuff, and she's like really precise with it. I would say that's what takes the most time. In fact, recently it was actually the day I went to Shroud or I went to Disney with Shroud for his birthday, and I was like mid homeless and I couldn't get an appointment in time, so I was like fuck it, I'll just like do a little trim on my beard, right? So I just took a just like a regular little buzzer, and I didn't do it real short, I just did it all the same length, which absolutely torched the beard shape. Like when she does it, she like changes the clipper lengths like fucking 20 times. So I had to go in this time, and I got one last week, but I like went in and I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna apologize ahead of time. I like fucked this shit up bad. You need to fix it. It didn't look terrible, but it was like clearly looked a lot worse. We eating good this week. Thanks, Max, for streaming. Dude, that's great. I love when I don't stream a lot. And instead of you guys getting mad at me for it, now that like the expectation is I stream like once a week, basically, or that's what it's been recently because I've been doing so much race stuff. You guys just like when I'm streaming a second day within 3 days, you're just like, dude, thank you, Max. Good job, streamer. Thank you for giving us what we need. You're so generous. So benevolent. Your streams are always high quality, to be fair. Yeah, nice paid chatter. But yeah, I mean, so that's kind of on purpose. Like, I'm lucky I get to do this, but for this farm period, I've basically only streamed when I've like really wanted to do it. Like I looked forward to it. Now, naturally, when you're creating content, if you're doing something you really, really want to do, it's probably going to be good content because you're having fun because you wanted to do it in the first place. You know, not a lot of people get to do that. Not a lot of people only go to work when they're actually really feeling going to work that day, you know? Like not a lot of people, almost no one can do that, right? And then obviously how much I'm feeling my work is going to heavily affect how good I do at my job. So it's that is the one benefit of I think not streaming as much is I think as a viewer you can probably expect that it's going to be good when you tune in because I'm only doing it when I really, really want to. Like, there's just no shot I would ever barely stream, and when I do decide to stream, I would just mail it in. Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, why would I even go live then? Even though, if you were to actually say what I do during my stream, it's not like there's a crazy event happening. Like that Jason the Ween guy is going around Japan with, someone he's obviously in a relationship with, but isn't publicly saying it because, I don't really know why. Probably just to farm content. But Like, that's like this big event, right? For my stream, you just hear me yap a little bit about WoW. Yeah, we saw your Jakura comment on Twitter. What does that mean? What is Jakura? Jason plus Sakura. Did I make a comment about Jason plus Sakura on... I responded to Cyan today, who I think is with them in Japan. She's a Poe Belter's girlfriend, friend of mine. I mean, she's also just my friend too. But she tweeted like I'm never drinking again, and I've personally heard her say that so many times, to where like I see her tweet it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm sure it'll work this time, buddy, for sure. Hey Max, weird question. I know, but I'm looking at my own performance mechanics and knowledge and stuff, and I feel like I could perform in a higher guild. My mythic logs are down due to some instability, and I don't even get pulled for convos for apps. Any tips? You said my mythic logs are down due to some instability in the guild? I don't know, man. Keep applying to guilds and get better logs, and you'll... I don't know. This is the best time to apply, right? Like right before season? Or is it right into the season? I actually don't know the answer to that question. Poe Belter from LOL? Yeah. Young Eugene. Dude, Eugene is such a sick name. Like, I feel like Eugene, the name when we were kids, feels like it didn't have a lot of aura to it. Like, it was like a nerd name. Like, your name's Eugene, bro. But I feel like that name now has crazy aura. Legit, all I want to play is AUG, but people legit hate that spec so much, it's hard to get into good guilds as an AUG at the moment. Oh, that's interesting. An actual AUG player. Like, to so many people, AUG players are dev players multi-classing, and they're Prez players multi-classing and trying to DPS. But, like, there probably are just, like, legit AUG players. Like, they're just like, this is my shit. This is what I want to main. And you feel like you can't get invited because of that. Yeah, I mean, I just think the community sentiment right now is that AUG isn't very good. So that's probably the reason why you aren't getting invited. Like, if you were a AUG only player and you had good logs and AUG was currently good, then you'd want it. But, like, you haven't played AUG in a couple tiers, so it's unlikely that people are looking for AUG players. But also that's kind of like saying I'm a... pick any single spec. Like, I'm an assassination only player. You know? It's probably hard to find a guild because people are like, I just want people to play everything. So maybe you have to, like... maybe you have to be willing to play dev too. Just like sign up as a DPS evoker because it's kind of understood that you would play AUG or dev. It's going to be a lot harder to find a guild if you are limiting yourself to a single spec. The AUG hate is actually silly. I mean, I also think the AUG hate is not even real. Like, I don't know how many people actually hated AUG because it's like something different. I'm sure there were people. I mean, there was a lot of negativity towards like power infusion and shit like that. But there's a lot of things about power infusion that isn't the same as AUG, and like how it ruins your details meters and logs never work and stuff like that. All that stuff, reasonable reasons to not like them. But the main reason everyone fucking hated AUG was they were just BIS. Like, if you were a DPS trying to find your way into a dungeon group, there was only 2 spots instead of 3 for like a year and a half. And there was like 2 two of them in every raid comp, and like, so people just associated that. But that would be true for any spec. That's not an AUG specific thing. If there's one class that's BIS forever, people will grow to resent them, right? I don't think it's any deeper than that. That's like the majority of it for sure. I'm actually not surprised that you said you're like a support only player, because like there's just something about being a support in games that some people are really drawn to. So like I guess it's just, I don't know why it's surprising me that some would say they were just trying to main AUG, because that there's just a lot of history in games to show that that makes sense. All right, cool. We're going live. Let me double check I'm not leaking anything. Yeah, we're good. All right, I'm here. Hello. I'm still kind of finishing my Yearsy mics. That's why it took me so long to go live. Captain Rogers 4. Bro, how are you going to slander me about how long I stream? You are currently on a alt Twitch account right now because you posted too many bird cocks on your other one. Come on. Come on, bro. Max, how is the state of QA with the patch and raid right now? What does that mean? Like, how well made is everything? I mean, it's like average going to a regular patch. Raid seems good. Classes are fine. There's always, at this point going into a tier, there's always, I mean, like a few more tuning patches need to happen, but I mean, those happen, you know? If you look at it from the lens of any individual spec, maybe something isn't fine or some because it's too good or too bad. But broad scheme of things, everything's really normal right now. I think he means if everything works as it should. I don't know. I'm not on the PTR, man. I couldn't tell you. We haven't. When we tested raid, it was fine. How's the Shadowmeld pot look, Chad? Is it going to be fire? Oh, I forgot about that. I think that's definitely was a good addition. I also just wish they would bring Skysteps back. Like, why is Skystep gone? They made Skystep a 5-minute cooldown because they felt like people were using it too frequently. And then they made all pots a 5-minute cooldown, but for some reason, Skystep doesn't exist. It shares CD with the main damage pot, so Nelf is still valid. Yeah, it doesn't replace Night Elf, but it's still better than what it was by that existing. Like, you could say, like, yeah, well, now you can use the Night Elf pot for one skip, and then if your full group is Night Elf, you can skip again in quick succession. Yeah, but, like, almost all skips, like, doing them 5 minutes in between each other satisfies it. So you would actually not need to be Night Elf to feel like you have to do it, even though there is some potential advantages. The only thing that I find interesting is why they don't just make Shadowmeld not work. I feel like that makes their job a lot harder. Like, Shadowmeld doesn't work in Raid, for example, for obvious reasons. Like, do you think Raid designers want to be going through every boss and then a new Raid tier comes out and they're like, oh, you can Shadowmeld the boss's main mechanic, and they're like, oh, well, that sucks. The whole boss is ruined. Like, they don't even have to deal with that because they just make it not happen. They make it, you just can't, Shadowmeld just doesn't work in Raid. It doesn't do anything. So why not do it in Dungeons? It's probably because it's hard for them to code. Like, here's my guess. If Blizzard could make Shadowmeld not work in Mythic Plus, but still be able to work in normal leveling dungeons, and like heroic dungeons at max level, I bet they would do that. I just think it's hard to make it work in one and not the other, most likely. Like, they really care about Shadowmeld. Like, someone comes back to the game for the first time in 10 years and some mobs are chasing them down while they're leveling up, and they're like, oh, dude, I'm a night elf. Remember, I can Shadowmeld, and then they're alive, and then they're like, oh, dude, my fucking whole life is complete. Like, I'm fucking unlocked right now. They don't want, I'm logging into a night elf druid and I can't Shadowmeld anymore. When I loved this game when I was a kid, I could Shadowmeld. Fuck this. I'm uninstalling this shit. I can't Mark of the Wild? What the fuck has this game become? Sounds stupid, but I really think they care about that. If you die while leveling in retail, you should quit the game. Oh, speaking of that, in Mob Classic, I've seen some discourse that the leveling is just like insanely long. And that's so interesting because I thought like the bit in Classic was that like leveling did take a long time, but also people like liked that about it, you know? But like obviously at a certain point from Classic to retail or like old WoW to modern WoW, like at some point leveling became something that happened pretty fast, you know? And I guess people were just expecting that to be MoP. Or maybe it's just the fact that, like, here's another thing. The fact that it's only 5 levels instead of 10. Is it the XP bar moving so little from turning in, like, a bunch of quests matter? Like, even though it's still taking the same time, the fact that it's only 5 levels, it just seems like you're really not you're not seeing the bar move. Maybe that's part of it. So XP gain is basically exponential leveling instead of tiered leveling like retail. Wait, so every XP level, instead of it being like 20%, like, so 85 to 86, it's not 30% more to go from 86 to 87. It's double or something like that, like just crazy. Every XP level is all of the XP from the level before. It doubles from 86 to 87. Oh, shit. Also, you don't get talents every level, so it feels like one giant level. Yeah, that's an interesting conversation about, like, current talent points. Like, we talked about this on the podcast recently, where, like, I think it's a pretty realistic... If you're looking at the talent system in the end game, you're like, dude, why don't we just have MoP talents again? Like, basically, you could boil down current talent trees to, like, the same amount of decisions you make are in MoP talents. And, like, why? Why did they change it? And usually arguments like that fall short of understanding what it's like to level in this game. And, like, I think most people would agree, like, when you level and you ding a new level and you can open up a talent tree and place a talent point in something, that like, feels great. And leveling with the MoP system, where it was only every 15 levels you got something, that, like, turbo sucks for leveling in comparison to clicking it. Like, basically the reason that current talent trees exist, yeah, they could do some creative stuff with, like, how it plays in endgame, but, like, I think the reason it exists at all, and, like, the main reason why they moved away from MoP trees was purely because of the leveling process and missing that from the game. But if you were someone who plays at endgame and you don't level anymore, so why the fuck would you care about the leveling process, right? You're probably looking at it like, why did we do all this big change? Because it doesn't affect me. And you'd be valid for that. That would be annoying, right? MoP talents were great, but they never got the amount of iteration they needed. Yeah, I mean, there were certain tiers of MoP talent rows where one thing was like 3 times better than the other two things, and that would stay that way for like years and expansions at a time, with no like interesting reasons why you would change them, or like fight dependent scenarios where you would choose them, or even like casual reasons. You just always be spec'd into the same thing. Dragonflight talents clear mop talents easily. You guys are crazy. Well, the conversation's pretty nuanced. I am also a fan of the new talents for sure. But I think there's some definite criticism of like current talents that make sense. Like if someone said the decisions you make now, the few decisions you make on your massive tree are equivalent to the like 5 decisions they gave you in mop, that's true as fuck. Uh, Another issue with the current talent trees is they made a choice a while ago that they didn't want you to have friction. Like basically, when these talent trees came out, some were good, some were bad, and you'd hope that you'd have a bunch of different options. Like, oh, we're cleaving a little bit in this fight. Okay, maybe I'll add half of my AoE talents. Oh, where this is a full AoE fight. All right, I'll pick my AoE shit. I'm actually playing a different build with different buttons, and like I can customize my character to the situation. That if that existed in this game, I think that would be the best version of what talent trees could be. The problem is when they came out, some of them were like that, except every class like that was bad because there were some classes that took their AoE build for pure single target, and it turns out they were just way better at both of those things for obvious reasons. And Blizzard made the choice right there and then, which I kind of understand why. But since then, they have took every single DPS tree. This is speaking purely DPS, and they made it so you don't actually have to like spec a bunch of different stuff. They basically tried to make everyone, because they were going off of complaints. People whose talent trees had a bunch of actual choice and customization, but that meant that if you were in a single target build and then you had to AoE, your single target build would be a lot worse than someone else's for obvious reasons. But then they changed those trees to where you're just playing the same build all the time. Now that made your class better, and if you're playing that class, you get invited to stuff, which also matters. But them making that decision, I think, made talent trees where they are right now, where there's not too much variety, and you basically just want to be playing the same build the whole time because that's the decision made there. But I don't know if they could have done that the other way. Like, I think Blizzard is ever completely on, like, they're trying to do something really hard. They're making a game for a lot of people, live service. So really a lot of their jobs are, yeah, they want to create cool stuff, but I think a lot of their jobs there are just like putting out fires as they happen. And a fire could be a bunch of people complaining from the X class community about a certain thing, and they're like, okay, so like they go off a priority list of like things for how mad people are, and then they fix those things. It kind of makes sense, right? So like the people who are mad about their talent trees are the ones that couldn't pick. So if you think about making that decision in hindsight, they would have had to have like a really strong vision for what talent trees should be. They hear everyone being mad about having to pick different talents, and then they would have had to make the talent trees that people were not complaining about and they thought were good. They would have to make those builds much more varied, give you friction, make you pick AoE things. So you were going to not be making the mad people less mad, and you'd be making more people mad by doing that. Even if it would have ended up with a better talent tree situation now. It's hard to make those decisions when your job and your game are like purely defined on like a sub basis from patch to patch, and you're constantly competing. It's hard to do that. You kind of just are forced to just make people happy. So I don't know if they could have ever done it, but I think that would have been a better decision. Max, what are your thoughts on what they can do for classes at midnight? Just add more ship on top of talents in here to... Oh, that's a good point. I actually haven't thought about that at all yet. It's kind of a good time to think about it because I think all of this is going to happen when we are doing the race and can't even comment on it. But you're right. Dragonflight was like, let's rebuild a lot of base functions of the game. Cool. And then the War Within, they were like, all right, basically everything that we just did, except like we're just going to add these little hero talents. That's what we're doing. And we're adding delves. So they're still adding, in quotes, evergreen things to the game. So what are they going to add at midnight? What could they add on top of this? I think anything. I think we're good on anything talent related. I think. Player housing? Oh, no, yeah, they're doing player housing, obviously. Now, are they going to do player housing and then just completely not do any, like, actual gameplay changes to the game? I don't think. I think the people doing either of those things don't have the same job, so I doubt they would take away from each other in any way. So I don't know, actually. I don't. I mean, maybe they'll expand on hero talents a bit. Cook. I think there's some cooking that could be done there to make that better. That's a great question. I don't really know. Maybe they go borrowed power again, man. It's such a dangerous road to go down. How hard do you go at it? Some of that could be fun, but who knows? Obviously, all the problems that existed with that before. Like, I'm not talking like grinding AP at all. I'm thinking more like essences, corruption, stuff like that. Listen to the Dementia soundtrack. Oh shit, let's do that. Where is? I'm assuming it's on Wowhead. If you guys are talking about it, that's how things work. For people who are playing MOP, are y'all having fun? Having a good time? Mist of Pandaria is a really cool looking place. All the zones are like really nice looking. Double the RNG with raid BOEs in Season 3. Random secondary stats. Double the RNG, double the fun. Mana Forge Omega raid BOEs appear to be very special in Season 3 as they appear to roll with completely random secondaries. That's interesting. I don't care about the double the RNG is just like rage bait, but if you're someone looking for a BOE, what's actually better? Having BOEs where like randomly the stats are actually good for you or good for everyone? Or like there's a piece that's just like verse high and it goes on the auction house for nothing because no one wants it. But like you could RNG get a good one and then sell it for a lot. I mean, it's definitely a W for people with gold, right? Because like there's a potential that you didn't want BOEs, but now there's a good chance you would want them because they they're gonna have BIS stats. But they're also probably going to be hella expensive. But the thing is mythic BOEs aren't even like actually BOEs until a long time into the patch to where like I feel like that won't even be a thing. It's more for like heroic BOEs, which I guess matter. The like instead of farming that like stats from Mythic Plus or something can save you time. Like by the time mythic BOEs become actual BOEs, like you already have had like a ton of vaults. You've already crafted those kind of rings and shit. Like I think it's actually kind of unlikely that this is like a huge deal. I just don't know if this is like a good or a bad thing. It just seems kind of neutral. Okay. Encrypted patch 11.2.7 internal test build on WoW dev servers. Seemingly working ahead, Blizzard has updated one of their internal servers. That means nothing. New Darkfuse reputation farm. Who cares? It was Fish Dick cast time removed. Was this them buffing that thing that was making people mad? Fish what? Fish dicks. That's the AoE heal totem. Yeah, before you had to stop it so they never went off, but now they're just making it like happen. Which, so probably unsurprisingly, one of the reasons that Tazavesh Gambit is one of the most well-liked Mythic Plus dungeons ever. It's like top 3 no matter what. But the big reason why is you could like just pull huge at the beginning. Had a bunch of other stuff going on, but you could just like there's this massive area and you could just do a bunch of different creative like big pulls. And them changing this makes me think that it's gonna like they're targeting that specifically, which just seems like a no fun change. The bosses were cool, yeah. I mean, I love that whole I did a ton of Mythic Plus that season, and I wanted to be in Gambit every single key. It was so fun. Where the fuck is this music, dude? Damn, this is an old-ass post, unless I missed it. Oh, Embrace the Void with new Koresh and Dementius raid music. Alright. Which one are we looking for? Dementius Combat? Slamming it. It's 30 minutes long. Okay. Go to 21 minutes is the best part. You want to listen to 1, 3, 7, and 12. I will do all of them. Go into 1 minute. Yeah, that shit goes pretty hard. All right, 3 minutes. All right. Choir music, chanting ominous Latin nouns. All right, that number not worth. All right, you guys keep saying go to 12 minutes. All right, fuck it. The numbers are not the minutes, it's the title. Oh shit, my B. Wait, so what do we... But title 12. Where do I go to this? It's in the video. Okay, I'm confused. I'm just gonna hope there's like timestamps or something on the YouTube video. Oh, it goes through the IC. It has the numbers on here. I'm so dumb. Okay, here we go. 12. Like it? This has got to be at the end of the boss, right? It's pretty long. Secret phase? No, there's not a secret phase in this boss. All right, I like it. It goes hard. I'll listen to it when it's live. I like that shit. Okay. So, for the Dratnos content we're doing today, let's see if Tier Maker has a... God, when you just open up Tier Maker, you just realize, like, the different kinds of people that make Tier Maker. It's like... It's like half of the people who go to this website, or like 49%, are people that are just voting on anime girls. And then it's just like normies with stuff like animals I could beat in a fight tier list. And then there's just me making WoW ones. It's based off your most voted, bro. It literally just says, or your most, it's based off of your search history, bro. It just says most voted. Tier maker live. Wait, what are the other categories? Oh, tier maker user, bro. That should be me. Yeah, I guess there's actually probably a lot of sports stuff. Oh, they literally put the one. So what? Sports, video games. Genshin Impact has its own one. NFL, cartoons, NBA. Yeah, so like TV, movies, sports, Genshin Impact, and then other video games. That's the content. So what I would be looking for, Mana Forge bosses. Someone might actually have to make this. Oh yeah, here we go. Someone already did it. Is it readable? Yeah. So this is based off of what we've seen on testing so far, and we're kind of just rating. Oh yeah, what did I do the last time I did this video? 1 second, let me find the notepad for it, the previous one. Okay, no, I don't have it. So just this. I think we did like a pull count prediction. And then we ranked the bosses, and then we just asked how many pulls do you think this boss takes on the Race to World first? And then did I have him do a comp prediction at the end? He's probably going to do his own video of that. So maybe we don't do the comp prediction, because we've been kind of doing our own shit with that. Yeah, I think we just hit like a... I mean, the pull count predictions are so dumb. Yeah, do we even do the pull count prediction? Maybe we just make it about the bosses. And then I can actually use that ID video I found. Right, Millie, wow, ID. Fuck. Instant dollars. Millie, know why? Oh, I found it. Oh, shit, that's why. Here it is.
Come on, man.
Which one's 15 minutes?
And I can just have this on in the background while we talk about the fights. And then have this in a separate little thing I pull up. Yeah. Yeah. Where's our community tier list? It's not time for that yet, man. You know? Yap Inc. I'm 100% convinced the first bosses are going to be mechanically some of the easier fights we've ever had because the influx of housing normies later in this patch. You really... I have a pretty high opinion of Blizzard. I don't think they're thinking that far ahead, just in general. Because, like, regardless of how you make the raid, 6 months from now when the normies are coming in before the new expansion, like you're saying, the housing normies, they're going to... Like, the bosses are all going to be easy at that point anyway. You know? Is this the class change PTR update waiting room? So, before, you guys keep asking that. I believe... I don't know if they've stated this, but I believe they're at the point where... they're not doing full builds being released. Most of that stuff is going to be hot fixes from here on out. So there's not going to be like a full-ass PTR build going forward, I think. Yeah. All right, I'm going to call Dranos. Hello?
Yo.
Yo. You ready to do this?
Yeah. Let me log into PTR, guys, so I can pop open the dungeon journal.
Okay. I think PTR might be fucked. Have we tried to log in today?
Ah! I haven't logged in today.
Hopefully it's not fucked. What do you think about the vibes for this raid in general? Just not
Dude, it
boss
looks
specific.
sick. I mean, I feel like this is like a slam dunk vibe. And they've done a good job with it.
Yeah. Most relatable vibe in a while. Not like without some niche, just like some fucking shadow shit. People love that. Someone said it's only fugged if you're in Dornegal.
Okay, unfortunately, that is where my characters live.
Someone in chat just referred to Dornegal as Dornhub. Have you ever heard of that before?
No.
That is both. That's kind of clever. And
Okay,
there's
I was
some
able to log in.
huge gooner energy, but yeah, I'm seeing where you're coming from.
Okay, ready when you are.
Wait, have you tested? You were like away for a little bit, so you didn't get
No,
to.
I didn't do testing. I've just watched it.
Okay. And
It's weird though. This is the first tier in like ages that I haven't actually tested myself.
yeah, I mean, I think the bosses are pretty easy to understand, but we're gonna do. So what do we just do the first 7 bosses? Because like, what are we even doing rating the? I guess we could kind of talk about what the boss do. But like, I mean, how are you gonna like rate it before you ever see it? It could be, I mean, most end boss. I mean, we could just try to guess it right and just be like, it's an end boss, so it's a good chance that it's sick. But
Yeah, I feel like we should make a wild guess.
all right, fuck it.
People love that.
Yeah, people love wild guessing. All right, cool. So I'm gonna have this on in the background. I'm gonna have just some instant dollars footage playing. But okay, Plexus Sentinel, first guy. What do you think?
Yeah, first guy. I don't know. I don't have any strong opinions about this particular first guy. Seems fine.
I mean, we've talked about first guys a lot, where there's some that are like clearly going to be like bad, and some that have, but they haven't done one with the qualities that make a first boss instantly bad on seeing it in a long time. Like it seems like they're pretty basic, which is fine. You know what you're gonna get. This one kind of seems mostly. I mean, I think this one has like a little more to it besides just like. I mean, what was the last boss? Thematically really cool. Last first boss, Vexy, and you just like you had a damage amp on top of AoEing a bunch of ads that were coming in. Like that's like if you're a dam doer, like that's like exactly what you want, right? Like no downtime. So
Vexy was a little fiddly though. Like shooting the bikes through the oil, you could shoot like a little bit through the oil, but not if it went fully through the oil, it spun out. And like, I feel like a lot of people never really fully understood how that boss worked, and you just kind of tanked it in such a way that that didn't matter ideally. But like, if your tank didn't know what was going on, then all of a sudden you just randomly wipe to not having the bikes go in. That happened in Pugs I was in.
oh, dude, on our kill of the boss, we still one shot it, but we had like 2 or 3 ticks of the boss being at 100 energy, and we couldn't send the thing in like on progression. I was like, dude, are we about to wipe to the fucking first boss right now?
Yeah, so I feel like Vexy was really cool though. Like it was a really thematic, and I think that boss probably has a better theme, especially like relative to the raid than Plexus Sentinel does relative to this one. It's definitely going to be better than Olgrax. Olgrax sucked. You had that immune phase intermission where you were just AFK.
Yeah, and like the best way to do it was to AFK next to where the boss was going to jump to and let the guys run to you and like hold DPS basically, so you didn't have to run away with all the meat. Yeah, I think you're right. That one is like recently a stinkier one.
That was cringe. Yeah, that was like D or C tier. What I don't know what if we're tier listing this or what.
There's a couple bosses where we are. There's a couple of bosses where I'm at least going to mention like how aesthetically cool they are to look at. And even though Plexus Sentinel is the first boss, I think aesthetically, and this might not even be a player, like the literal viewer, the person watching this happen is just going to be like, wow, that's kind of cool. And it's when it phases, like it's right here. When the boss runs away, and every time you have to go a little farther, you have to kill some ads real quick in Mythic. But like you just like look at what you're looking at, and you have to find a way to the boss I think that looks kind of sick. Well, this like 2 people stayed back to kill this ad, but like look at this. This is like there's a bit going on here. It's like a bit more room to do Iminar from what fucking raid was Iminar? Was that Hellfire Citadel? No.
I think that was Antorus.
Yeah, Taurus. Sorry, 2 big end expansion raids. So you
yeah,
think
you kind of get some mother vibes as well with the like traveling down a hallway thing.
yeah, early boss on old year. Yeah, I guess the really only similar thing there is like the wall, I guess, but I mean that's pretty significant, like visually significant. Very easy boss to understand and do, which I guess is the goal. But like usually we end up voting for these with first bosses of like what they're supposed to be and like what even is an S tier first boss. And it's basically one that isn't too hard, looks kind of cool, and isn't annoying in any way. I don't think it can be S because I think purely just like the super damage focused people are just not gonna like this fight because you're gonna have some running where you're not doing damage. Where like last boss versus like last boss on your 2 minutes, you got like a damage amp. That's kind of good. Like a lot better. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm inclined to say this is not an S tier candidate. I think it. I don't see why it can't be A though. It doesn't seem like it has any glaring problems.
Yeah, like when you see a Hellfire Assault prototype, you're like, that's the worst fight ever. Even before it ever was what it was. Even though you had the Sepulchre first boss, its heroic version was so bad that people still think the mythic one was like super bad to this day just because of how bad the heroic one was. And like it doesn't have any of the prototype of that. I just think it's not like a weird ad first boss, so its baseline is like a B or an A, and it's probably like a little better than that.
Yeah, I would say it's probably high A and then like B if you're somebody who wants a first boss that you can like really parse on and test your damage on properly, because this is definitely not that.
Yeah. Okay. We have the second boss, except I believe I think the layout of this raid is like you can go to Lumathar or Soulbinder here.
Yeah, it looked like it.
But I would say this is definitely, you know how, I mean, you could go to Rick Reverb or
Styx Sprocket.
Yeah, well that last tier was extra different, but let's just say second and third bosses. Even, I mean, you can look at last year all the way through 5. There was a clearly defined like difficulty order, even though it was non-linear. And I think this raid is very similar, where like Lumathar absolutely seems like the second boss. Cauldron of Carnage was the second boss. Rick Reverb was not, and it was known to be that way beforehand. So second boss here, I think clearly. What's the vibe for people who are watching it? Basic bit. You're just it's like Aeronog mechanic. You're killing some of these webs as they come in so you can get out. You place some stuff at the edge of the room, and there's 4 pylons that eventually spawn in P1, and you have to soak them so they don't hit the boss or else you get owned. It's for any of Terra's Land enjoyers, it is the tree boss from the Tree Sentinel from Terra's Land. Is literally the exact same fight. And then in P2 you run around in a circle and you damage him until you die or he dies. What do you think?
Yeah, they used the skeleton of one of the most iconic bosses as well, Senarth. For this boss. So
is it actually the same model?
I'm pretty sure it is. It's like it's the same thing for when Senarth is ascending in her iconic room.
Her iconic room. Yeah, we need to. Yeah. Hopefully, they release a disc plate for.
That's the main thing that I'm hoping for here. Is it's not as big of an arena, so we're not going to get quite as many disc plates out of this one. But
this is
we can still get one.
I wish I was someone in the chat that didn't get this inside joke right now and just like, what the fuck are they talking about? But yeah, not going to clarify. I mean, super basic. I'm thinking like, I don't know. Okay, what are like some recent second bosses that we thought were good? Like Agira was like whatever. What do we have this current raid?
Cauldron. This is a very different boss than Cauldron. I think it's good though. Yeah, like it has a couple of simple mechanics that are pretty easy to understand. You've got some, tank involvement with hitting the frontal to like remove the invulnerability on the things. Then, you kill him. Phase 2, is sort of a classic move around the room as you're getting less and less space. I have stuff to the edge. It seems kind of fun.
I'm going to have a little bit of a curveball take here in that I agree with everything you said. This boss will almost certainly get one shot in the race. It's just a second boss, right? I think one element of a second boss that's important is I think it should be easily puggable. I think the first and the second boss of every raid, without question, should be able to be done in a pug, with like reasonably skilled people in like the first few weeks as like a way to get your vault from like some mythic loot. I think this boss will actually be very problematic to pug because pugs do not wait around for things to change, right? Like if one thing goes wrong, they're gonna leave. I'll give you situation one. All right, we're on the pull. I'm gonna pause it right here. The fucking first tank gets picked with this piercing strand. What if, you know what I'm saying? Like if this just doesn't hit one of the things, then you're kind of cooked, right? You can't hit 2 in 1.
Yeah.
So like that's just immediately, even though it's not difficult, it's a binary thing, and I think that could be challenging. Or even if they do 2 really spread out, or if people don't get out in time. The other mechanic's kind of easy, where like you go to the edge of the room because you can only people who are tethered to the boss, you can only drop this pool when you are 40 yards away, which is exactly on this blue line around the room. So like that's always easy to play. Another thing, you need to have people soaking these pylons, and up to 4 of them in this phase. Now you see this pylon getting soaked by this person. If they go into the boss, it pulls his raid damage. Not a lethal amount, but over time it's gonna like maybe cause you to die, and if multiple are going in, maybe you die. That person, if you notice, where all the raid people just ran out here, that person would have had to be there. They would have to run out and get it, or they would have to be a Blinky Porty class to do that, right? Does that sound like something that would be reasonably done like within a pug environment, as far as like assignments on each pylon and like who goes to what, like, and you have to rotate as well. It can't just be one person. That's definitely, none of those things were super punishing in PTR for what it's worth, but it's probably gonna be more punishing on live, especially when we have no gear. I just feel like this boss is gonna be the end of pugging. And I think that for me takes some points away from it.
Yeah, I do think, like, just looking at it, it doesn't seem like it would be that hard to do a mythic pug in. Like, the things that kill mythic pugs are when you need all 20 of your players to really know what's going on. And it seems like if your 2 tanks know what's going on in this fight, and you have, like, 6 people in Discord that are doing the pylons, like, you could handle everything else reasonably well. So
is that not asking a lot, though, for a mythic pug?
I mean, if you think about like Mythic Cauldron of Carnage, right? Like somebody has to kick the robots, and
yeah, not 6 people.
Yeah, 2 people need to do robots or whatever, and like, but your tanks also still need to kind of know what's going on. I guess it's probably a little bit harder to pug than Cauldron. I think it'll be easier to pug than like the impossible pug bosses, at least. But yeah, you're right. Maybe this is harder than a second boss should be to pug.
Yeah. Okay.
It doesn't strike me as one of those bosses where it's like, I really don't want to pug this ever, but that could change. I wouldn't have guessed that Styx would have been that at the start of the tier, and it definitely was.
Where do you think you'd put this guy? Girl?
I don't know. I'm feeling B or A.
Yeah. Is it an S tier second boss? No.
No.
Is it a D tier second boss? No. It's probably even better than C. So yeah, B or A. Are we gonna be optimists? Is like we have to protect ourselves, right? So like I guess when we ranked Council of Dreams as like kind of a cool PTR boss, then people did it and it turns out you just had to be a duck the whole fight and they hated it. Can we like future proof? Can we Council of Dreams proof this? Is there a reason that we're not thinking of that will make people absolutely hate this to where this will look crazy a month from now?
I think you probably gave the best possible like downside case for this. So look, if you want to go B, that's probably the safest place to put it if we want to avoid but I'm not sure. I don't get the vibe that this is going to be like a hated boss.
Yeah, me neither. A, and then Plexus Sentinel, the actual like ordering for those 2 bosses, they're trying to do 2 different things. It doesn't matter. Okay, Soulbinder. Actually, I'm just gonna. What do you think about this guy? This is so like such an interesting fight.
It is interesting. Yeah, it's cool. It's weird to me that this strikes me as the kind of boss that would not usually be put 3rd in a raid. I don't know. It seems like the kind of boss you'd put like 5th or 6th or something.
Yeah, but with mechanics taken away, you know how we said like Taros, and this is kind of relevant later in this video, where like Taros would be great if they took what made Taros and then they made it later in the raid. And then you could kind of look at this the opposite way, right? Where it seems like this is a concept you would really only approach with like maybe a 5th or 6th boss. except they like did it with the second or third boss, but then just took away all the things that made it make sense later. Like okay, people who are watching this, let me show you this encounter. You have to hit these little orbs that come out of you. You have to hit these things, and then you have to hit them with this line mechanic. It spawns 2 ads. You do that 3 times, and then the remaining ads in the room you did not kill that way spawn. You AoE them down, and then you just repeat that. One small thing, it does 3 knockbacks in between all of those where it leaves puddles on the ground where you did that. There's no second phase. There's no like burn. There's no nothing. It is literally just repeats with no changes. It's one continuous phase repeating. Very, very different, really.
Yeah. I don't know. It's got that kind of like ground gunking up thing that's maybe going to be a little bit ugly. And this could be the boss you try and pug for a 2 vault, maybe.
Ooh, yeah. I guess it's like, yeah, I guess it just depends on how difficult the ads are to
like
deal
if
with.
Lumithar is actually a frustrating one to pug, this one, you do kind of need to have everybody know how to, open the ads or whatever, but maybe this could work.
Yeah, the thing
I
is,
feel
though,
like the ground would get really ugly, but
yeah, the
that's
ground will get
fine.
really ugly. So, like, as most people know, like when you're looking at testing, people are not optimizing their movement and stuff at all. Like what you're seeing right here is from 2 total knockbacks. When you get knocked back, there is a puddle that spawns where you land. There's a puddle that spawns under every single player in the raid. You see like distinctly 20 puddles here. If you really wanted to, I'm not saying you'll have to. In fact, I'm certain you won't. But you could make like 2 total puddles by this point in the fight than the 20 you're looking
by like
at.
stacking. Yeah.
Exactly. But that's probably much closer along the lines of what an organized guild would make it look like, but a pug would just look more like this, right? But like the boss is killable like this. In fact, ID kills it, I'm sure, on this pull. So you get to the 3rd set of ads, you pop these, and then all the rest of the ads spawn, and now you deal with their like evolved state when you didn't kill them in like the chrysalis, and you just finish these ads and then watch them AoE these ads. Ready? 3, 2, 1, all the ads are dead, and you just do all of that again. And that's exactly what it will be like on Mythic on Live. I just think, okay, this is going to be a question of like good boss design versus what is playable. Like, does this look like it would be unfun to play as a DPS player?
I mean, you get to do some cleaving. There's not really too much that like interferes with you, right? You're getting knocked around a little bit, but it seems like it'll be chill.
Yeah, but you could cancel the knockback on like most like. Here's what I'm thinking: you're a DPS, 20 seconds into the pull, you're 3 target cleaving. Like a minute into the pull, you're 3 target cleaving. Like a minute and 30 into the pull, you're 3 target cleaving, and then on your 2-minute cooldowns, 6 ads spawn on top of the boss, and you blow them up with your CDs, and then you just do that again. That sounds fucking great. That sounds really fun. There's not a lot of like weird movement. It's just like from a gameplay perspective, there's like nothing to this boss, but in a simple way, it's kind of sounds like it'd be fun to DPS. I have no idea about healing on this fight, but I feel like this is the reason why I'm not going to put it in like the lowest, because I feel like this is like someone who does not make raid bosses could make this fight. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is another one that's going to be really hard to judge based off testing, because it seems like everything just kind of didn't matter and died on testing.
And that's intentional. I mean, yeah, for you guys who are not super familiar with testing, like a lot of people look at this as like your first look at progression on these bosses and to get a bunch of ideas for it. But for Blizzard's end, it is like entirely to make sure the boss isn't fucking broken by sample size of a bunch of people trying it. So like they make things easier that would otherwise kill you, so you can see later in the fight to see if P3 mechanic works, where if they tuned it as it was going to be on progression, maybe you don't get past P1 in testing, and now the whole purpose of testing was gone, right? So things are intentionally easier.
But they even that's like, it's inconsistent, right? Sometimes things are too hard, sometimes things are too easy. Usually they try and make it too easy rather than too hard, but like this one was easy enough that I don't think you really got a feel for what the ads would actually feel like when they were doing their thing, right? Because you just kind of,
just kind of blast them. I mean, I guess they could just give them like infinitely more HP and make what they do more dangerous, but I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts here?
Nah, head empty, no thoughts.
What is your rank?
I would go B. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the kind of fight that I particularly enjoy, so that might be a little biased, but That's where I'd go.
Okay, so if I was thinking of going below B, what are some like early raid bosses that are distinctly like C's or D's in recent memory? I'm thinking. Wait 1 second. Bosses are or dogs are barking. Um. Okay, so I'm thinking like Aberrus wasn't that one AOE boss. What was that called? Something
Assault of
Assault.
the Zakali.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Assault of the Zakali, Zakali Assault. That was that boss like bad because you just had to go there for loot and it was just boring the whole time, or was it kind of fun to AoE for a little bit? Like, how did you view a boss like that?
That boss was way more of like an ad spam boss than this, because this one you're always at least hitting the main target, right? You're not like splitting up and just killing ads on like a side platform. But yeah, that boss, I don't know. I warmed up on that boss over time. I thought it would really stink, but it ended up being kind of fun.
Okay, so banger second or third bosses, is it like S? I don't think it could be S or A at all. Like even Lumathar is just a more complete, better looking fight than this. Yeah, maybe B is just the answer. It's just B.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go C, if you're feeling C on this, I'm fine with that too.
I just feel like it's just missing a mechanic.
Yeah, that's the thing where I'm sort of thinking like maybe the testing tuning is why it feels that way, but yeah, you could be right.
I'm gonna go C. I'm gonna stand on that. I don't know. Like, okay, so let's talk about future proofing it in the opposite direction. Where do people see this and they're like, dude, what do you mean Soulbinder's great? Maybe it's just an easy ass boss that people get loot from, and for a lot of people, it's just really that simple. And
Yeah, I think that was the nice thing about Assault of the Zakali was you walked up and you knew you were gonna kill it. But I'm not sure this has that level of like easiness as Zakali does. Again, like PTR tuning it did, but I don't know. I suspect that this is going to be one of those bosses that feels very different from testing.
okay, I'm gonna go B.
All right,
B. I like B.
B sounds fine to me.
All right, so next boss, Forge Weaver. This is where certainly the raid starts getting a little harder, but also I think they've done something really significant here. So this boss is like kind of unique. I can't actually think of a WoW boss that's quite played out like this. It looks really fucking cool. But let me just briefly break it down for the viewers before we really start talking about it. The P1, the boss is you're attacking the boss. There's this echo you have to kill. It's like a mini boss and it has to be tanked away. And then in the meantime, there are these little ads that spawn. You're going to see them placed right here. They place from players. They go towards one of the 3 pillars, which I'll get into in a second. And as soon as they go through this black hole, they're able to be hit for full damage. So you just you'll see what instant dollars here do is they cleave them on top of the boss, and then you have to separate this arcane echo on the boss. So in each P1 and P2, you have to kill the echo. That's this big thing over here. So like you can already think multi-dotting, like super important. You're gonna have 2 main targets. If you're someone who can only hit one when things are spread out, you're gonna feel less bad, or you're gonna feel worse. Going into the intermission, all 3 of the collectors that spawn, which you'll see now, you'll get knocked away. You'll see these 3 collectors that are really spread out. They have to die at the exact same time. They're like 40 yards away. So again, multi-dotting, multi-target damage versus people who are like a warrior in this example, like a lot less valuable. Not to say the fight would require that necessarily, but it's getting to be a little bit later into the raid. So like you're already seeing so far, they're just heavy sending like multi-target ranged classes are just intended to be the better class here. That repeats in P2. You get a little damage amp, single target damage amp on the boss after each one of those phases. And then the last phase, which you see very briefly, is the boss goes to the edge of the room, and it is trying to pull you into the void, which the edge of the room is like this void, and if you get pulled in, you die. You get a damage amp right before this. It's ramping damage till the end of the fight, and it's also a ramping suck. So there's ad spawning that you're cleaving on top of the boss, but as time goes on, the suck goes harder and harder, and then like you just eventually start dying to get to the edge of the room. Also, if the ads go to the edge of the room, you die.
Yeah.
So,
on Mythic as well, the ads are supposed to not get within 7 yards of the boss, or else they get like a 99% DR. That's
is this a new thing?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's
Maybe it
new or
is.
what, but Yeah, it looks like you're not gonna be able to cleave them in P2 on the boss anymore, which I think is kind of cringe, but
Oh, maybe it is a.
on Mythic.
Yeah, I actually haven't looked at this boss in like a week or so. It is possible. So on testing, you could tank the ads onto the boss all
Yeah.
the time, and going into the testing, we thought that was going to be true, and then that just wasn't true in testing. It was that black hole thing. But you are, yeah, you might have to do that in the last phase as well. Okay, but that's the old encounter here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the classic one where if you're one of the specs that is, a balanced druid, an affliction warlock, something like that, where you can multi-dot profitably shadow priests, I think you're going to be having a pretty good time on this fight. You can sort of see on the damage meters there the shadow priest just having the time of their lives, and then DK is also looking good because they were super overtuned during testing. Um, I don't know. I mean, the rest of the fight, the P2 is kind of cool. It's the first but not the last time we see like a black hole in this raid, and I like when the raids do mechanical. Like this is a bit of a tangent, but Crucible of Storms, how the first and second boss there had some like shared mechanics.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool thing. In this raid, there's a lot of bosses that have like a black hole towards the end, and the mechanic is don't stand in the black hole, and also it does other stuff and like grips you. But I think that's a neat thing. So that gives it a couple bonus points for me. I don't know. I don't really have any super strong. It seems like it'll be potentially. It seems like this is the type of fourth boss that could be pretty hard as well. Like if it's tuned to be, could be quite a tight DPS check.
Yeah, I mean this to me is like clearly a step up from the previous bosses.
Yeah.
And I just find it really interesting that they're going so hard into niches. I don't know if I dislike it either. It's just like for a long time they tried to make it so no one class would particularly stick out on any encounter for like years after BFA basically. And then starting last year they have these execute fights, they have these multi-dotting fights. And then they do it again. This tier, it's all about damage amps. There's so many important damage amps on every boss, second to last boss, this boss. So many important damage amps. That seems to be a focus. And then they have another boss in the middle of the raid here where it's just like so clearly designed. Like they do not intend for the damage meter at the end of this to look balanced. It is intended that a few classes will shine. That's not common. They do not do that often. At least historically. So I think it's significant in that way, where I think going forward, it's just them making this boss specifically just makes me realize that that's something they're into. By the way, just what do you think about that in general, just before I go on? I think just about the varying damage types in this game and like leaning into them.
Yeah, I think it makes some sense to do. It's just, I don't know. It seems like it's like multi-daughters are the only ones who get fights like that. I don't know.
Is that the only niche they're really going after? I guess they tried to go after execute last year, but it just ended up not mattering.
Yeah, and they nerfed like they nerfed a lot of the biggest execute damage dealers in the lead up to Liberation of Undermine. So, which kind of makes sense because execute's like inherently more important on regular bosses than multi-dotting is.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is a great fight. Different, fun to play, looks really cool. As far as the pug argument, I think my guess is that it's like pug stop here situation for a long time until it's nerfed. It wasn't super hard on testing, but like just the simple fact of you having to kill those three collectors at the same time as each other, and then you start pretty quickly wiping if that's not the case. That is something without comms that is very difficult. So I think that is some now different conversation. Should fourth bosses be puggable? People really liked the 4 box they got on Rashanan from that boss being free, but like grand scheme of things, is that actually good design from raids if like the first 4 bosses are all so easy you can do that? It probably depends on what kind of player you are, but whether that should be the case. But I don't know. I think I'm a pretty big fan of this. I like the end. I think the end's going to be the first time you kill Forge Reaver, like maybe even if it's not that hard, you have a few people dead. Like I think you're going to be killing this as your basic with a few people alive that can deal with this suck. If they do this right, and I think that's going to feel like pretty sick.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. I feel like this is going to be one of those bosses that scales nicely into farm, like getting substantially easier.
Oh, really good point.
And that's always really nice. Like you think about Styx, and Styx kind of got nerfed to become easier during farm, but it wasn't It wasn't one of those bosses that got like trivialized by more gear. Whereas this one, I think once you can kill it at eye level, 710, you can murder it at eye level 720.
Dude, that's another thought. Do you think that's why they're doing damage amps? Like, why there's so many? Because, like, damage amps kind of inherently do that. Like, the stronger you get, a nice big damage amp with your cooldowns up, that, like, starts scaling crazy with gear. Like, think about the first time you do Nexus King. Are you gonna, like, fully get that dragon to 0 in that 30-second damage amp before the last phase? Like, almost certainly not. It's just gonna be extra boss HP. But, like, as you go further and further in farm, like, that last phase is going to be significantly shorter because of what you're able to do during that super large damage amp. I basically just wonder if that's just another one of the ongoing things they're doing to just make sure that this raid naturally gets easier.
Yeah, it's like, one of those phenomenons where you get 10% more damage and the fight gets like 40% easier. I don't know. I think those things are good. I think, especially if they're like well hidden, those are good. And those do lead to it being puggable earlier or more than you'd think because, once you have great gear in a couple months, stuff gets kind of free.
Okay. I like this boss a lot. Comparing it to other fourth bosses, your Rationans, difficulty is so much of a part of that. I want to say Forge Reaver ends up being... Okay, so, like, who's going to hate this fight? Is it, like, the people that are like, I can do well for my class on here, but I'm just so far down the damage meter because I don't have multi-dots? But are those people...
But, like, it's a fourth boss. I don't know. How bad can that really sucks if it's an end boss or even, like, Bandit, right? If you were a spec that did bad damage on Bandit, a really important late boss where damage mattered, that really stunk. But, I don't know. It's a fourth boss, like...
Yeah, like
there were specs that were really good at Styx damage, Moonkin.
Yeah, but like Styx, like so many people got dominated by Shadow Priest and Moonkins on Styx. Plus, you could just get the ball in your cooldowns, and then it's just like okay. So like you were kind of preconditioned to not care about the damage you're doing on that fight. Maybe something like that would be similar here.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, I want to put this pretty up there. I'm a fan. I don't know. I don't. Is this an S tier fourth boss? Probably not. Solid A, though, I think.
Yeah, I'm happy with A, I think, for this one.
Potentially... it looks really fucking cool. Yeah, A is fine. Okay, on to Soul Hunters. And, yeah, so Soul Hunters' first optional boss, arguably ever, but...
Yeah,
but
do we know what this is going to do in the Race World first yet? Like, have we decided, is this just skipped in Race? Is that... What's going on there?
So there's a few situations... but just before we get into that, I guess for the viewers who are watching this and want to know how this boss works, it is your typical Primal Council, stack 3 bosses on top of each other kind of thing where, the bosses are all doing some stuff that a little bit interacts with each other, and it's that fight, but it's just a little later in the raid. So, like, a little bit more challenging. So, like, main mechanics... there's like the Forgotten Experiments mechanic where you can't see it right now, but 3 people have a stacking debuff. Those people are the only people who can soak. It gives you a healing absorb, and then you just need to dispel that when it gets to a certain amount of stacks, and it will jump to someone next to you. But importantly, it is smart, meaning that it will jump over someone who already has a debuff onto someone who does not. It will only jump to ranged, so melee never have to run out and soak. I think that's really important. So it's basically the Forgotten Experiments mechanic, except it doesn't spawn ads. It doesn't spawn these massive circles you have to run away from. And honestly, it like very minimally impactful. It just decides who has to be doing some soaking during that time. The hunt on Mythic, it does 3 hunts and you have to spread out and soak this. It does a massive amount of damage. If enough people don't soak it, it will kill, that person.
Yeah. It's very similar to like Sire Denathrius soaks, right? Where the 3 people got targeted in P1. Because you also need to spread within the hunt too.
Correct. You need, it's very similar to Sire Denathrius soaks, where like you can see those green circles. You can't just like pixel stack in it. You have to spread on your own. Exactly right. And the boss does some soul fragments from the tanks that people have to rotate and soak, and that's it. And the main that is what the boss does outside of every phase. Then it does 3 intermissions. First intermission is the new Havoc spec that is in we believe is going to be announced for later this patch. Where it does this thing called Collapsing Star. You have to spread out and soak the collapsing stars that are trying to go in. The mythic mechanic to this is that every single person here is, you are tethered. 3 people are tethered, but maybe more accurately, 1 person now has 2 people tethered to them. So if you see here, like when I pause it, there's 3 people tethered, but they are not tethered together. They're both tethered to this person. We call them the alpha males. Basically, it gives you like six alpha males, and then there's just going to be 2 other people assigned to each alpha. And then the idea
Good. Yeah, we need a government policy to do that. Yeah.
And then you just spread out and soak those things. That's the 100 energy phase for that boss. That's the new spec. The 100 energy phase for the Havoc Demon Hunter is basically blazes. You're basically just gonna fight this boss in the middle here, and he's gonna be in the middle. Only one boss is hittable. Everyone is still tethered, just like before, but now you have to do blazes while tethered, which is kind of interesting, right? You like if you move too far, you get yanked. You'll move your thing and cleave other people. It hits really hard. Third phase is the Vengeance Demon Hunter's intermission, and all it does is just leap, which you have to dodge, and then it does a fell dev, which you have to get out. The difficulty with that is if you're not running with your chain people, you could get gripped back into it and then die. And then the end of this fight, one last thing, is at the end of this, the boss, if this is kind of the enrage, but kind of a fun and cool enrage where, like, I think good tuning for this on progression is you have to kill the boss a little bit into this phase. But all 3 happen at the same time, which are really hard. It is feasible to do for a brief amount of time. They die instantly here because they're not spread out at all, and they didn't soak the room. This is testing, right? Like, there's nowhere for there to move. But, like, you're basically going to have them all do this, and you just have to finish them in this cast, in this, like, combined intermission. This is the end of the fight. So that's the idea. We'll get into the Race to World first implications after this, but what's your general thought? Is this just another mechanic vomit council fight, or do you think it's like kind of interesting?
Yeah, so it is a mechanic vomit council fight, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff on the ground, and most of it is summarized as "don't stand" in this, right? But that being said, there's a little bit more to it, right? You have some people vacuuming up the circles before they lose their vacuumy thing, and that's kind of fun. The hunt, like the mechanic of soak a long line and spread within it, is, I think, a fun one to execute because it's just fun. Like, that's fun.
It's no weak aura,
sides,
right? It's no weak aura.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just like figure it out kind of thing.
Yeah, and so like the target should be running it to extend the line. Other people should be going in and soaking inside, and I think that's fun. My favorite mechanic that they use here, though, is the blaze style lines, right, where it targets you, and it's not really a blaze because I guess it does change its angle as you move, but I think it's still going to have the same sort of gameplay to it, where you want to move along your line rather than like turning it if you can, and maybe the alpha males get more ability to stand still than the rest of the group. Maybe that's some traffic rule you come up with. Either way, I think that all sounds pretty fun to me. So it seems like a bit of a mechanic vomit fight, but the mechanics seem like fun to play around, so I'm here for it.
I completely agree with you. This is one of the most fun looking council bosses. This was also the most fun our raid, besides Nexus King, had in testing, because it was just the only boss that was like you could kill this boss in testing, and it was actually like a challenging check. So like it was really fun in the last bit of testing, like optimizing and like actually trying to get its health to 0, which is something that often does not happen in testing. It's like the boss is impossible or it's like super easy. It's not usually like you have to lock the fuck in. This was one of those fights. But when we first saw it, it was like, okay, it's just another council fight. But as we did it more and more, like people were having a decent amount of fun doing this. Especially no weak auras, right? Like maybe you have some weak auras during these intermissions to like help spread people out or something in the future. But like for having to YOLO it, it was like just pretty fun to do. I was actually quite a good fan of it. I actually think this is one of the better council fights they've made. And I was starting to think that like you couldn't make a good council fight because it's been so long since they've actually done that. But I would like to. I'm kind of guessing here because I could. Council of Dreams happened, right? Like I could just be totally fucking wrong, but I feel like people are going to enjoy this fight. I think this is one of the more fun fights to do.
Yeah, I think this is. I don't know. I think it looks really fun. So, and given that it's a council fight, that is sort of bonus points. So.
All right. So now I need you to help me answer one question. Why the fuck is it optional? Why?
Yeah, that is the part that does like what does an optional boss mean in this day and age? Also, like, why would you make a cool boss with good loot and then create some reason to skip it, which is that you don't really have to do it? Like, I don't know. It's also like, aren't all bosses optional? Like, we're choosing to raid, we could just not raid. I don't know. It's
Yeah, that's another way to look at it. Yeah, I mean, like,
really
why
makes you
this
think.
boss specifically? So, like, the only thing that's okay, what makes this boss different from every boss, at least in the last 10 years, but Butcher also wasn't really optional like this boss is. It's literally not on the cutting edge achievement or like the Hall of Fame, whatever. So, like, what about this makes it different? I mean, I think it's just widely speculated that this fight just has a boss that's a Havoc Demon Hunter, a boss that's a Vengeance Demon Hunter, and then, curiously, a third boss with entirely new mechanics that all seem very Demon Hunter-y, and just last expansion, they released a spec in the middle of a patch, and I think it's just widely assumed that whatever fucking third spec of DH this is going to be released this patch, and that's why. But I still don't understand why the boss would have to be optional. It drops a tier piece. It drops the boots that on like normal and heroic that are like really fucking good, required probably, that work with your new Reshi wraps. So like, why label it as optional? I just simply, am now it doesn't really matter. I guess it's just so confusing as to why they chose to do that.
Yeah, and so I mean, also like I think most guilds will just want to kill this because it's good loot. But maybe if it's hard, it's not worth it, right? Like maybe this slows down your average Demencia's kill date if you bother killing this, which is it's just so weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you asked me before. I actually want you to guess. How do you think this is going to interact with the race?
I think you'll skip it unless the guilds agree that you have to do it to have it count. I don't know. Unless it's pretty easy. Like if this is like 50 pulls, I don't know. Can that like is the value of the mythic boots over the heroic boots that high? I don't know.
Well, it's mythic boots. So one thing that's interesting about this boss is the way that the boots are looted to you. So it was like kind of listed as personal loot, but it's like omni tokens. Like they spawn on the boss. And you can master loot them or like group loot them, which effectively allows you to master loot them. But it doesn't take the place of other gear. So killing this boss drops you more loot than a regular boss. Like if you normally get 4 pieces of loot on a regular boss, this boss could drop like 5 or 6 on Mythic.
Yeah, but it's you have all of it from heroic anyways, so it's still
correct. It's just eye
you're
level
still
upgrades.
just getting the mythic upgrades, and presumably these aren't going to be your best or only sources of spending gilded crest. So it's literally just 7 eye levels or something on some of these pieces.
Okay, so I don't think I have to be super secretive here because this is definitely at the point in the raid where no matter how well we're playing, we're most likely going to be the first people to make this kind of decision, to where I could tell you really most likely how we would handle something like this. So think of Styx and Sprocketmonger. When we were on Styx and it was clear that boss was insane, we were like 60 pulls in and then EU's waking up or whatever. Did you notice that like Method or Echo, outside of us and Echo doing some like information findy pulls on Sprocketmonger, no one decided to go be the first guild to go do Sprocketmonger?
Yeah.
And,
which makes sense, right? Like, why would you do a boss that is untested and like trailblaze for everybody else when there's a boss
exactly there's someone already. We were already doing that for Styx, so why be the guild to give away information? It makes sense if you're Echo or Method at that point to do what we've done, because there's no more new information getting. Where at that time, no one knew how hard Sprocket was. Sprocket could have been easier than Styx, but that still didn't matter because just if you can help it at all during the race, you never want to be the person giving away information. You want to be the one receiving it. So apply that to this boss. So let's say Forge Weaver dies, and now there's a split. Actually, you can go to Soul Hunters or you could go to Fractalus, the next boss we're going to talk about. Let's say we're going to go to Fractalus. Who's going to be the first guild to go to Soul Hunters specifically? Who knows? It could be some other guild. So I guess the first answer is the first time we would go to this boss is maybe when some other guild has decided to pull it a little bit to where we have some idea of how difficult it is. From testing, I feel like you have an idea of how you're going to do this boss. It's not like I think this boss could die pretty quickly. But if it's tuned really hard, like you said, 50 pulls, is anyone going to spend 50 pulls instead of just going to the end boss? I think that question entirely depends on basically, long story short, I think we're going to kill this boss before Dementius unless it is a 1 week tier, which I think is very unlikely just in general in current WoW. Like it's really unlikely historically that that's ever happened. It's happened very few times, but especially now with like you're doing multiple days of splits within the same week, it's like really, really unlikely. It's only happened once with that being the case. That's only a couple pieces of gear. Like 5 or 6 pieces of mythic gear isn't going to be the difference in you killing an end boss or not. But bro, you talk about the end of week 1. Think about it, Dranos. We're on Fractalus or Nexus King at the end of week 1. It's Monday morning. We don't think we'll maybe kill Nexus King today, but we definitely kill it with the reset. Plus, any information we get on Nexus King today, we just give away while the other guilds are sleeping. Should we go try to do this boss that maybe this world 100th guild has pulled a few times, and we think we have like we know that the damage check is possible and all those things. You're not only getting 5 pieces of loot, you're also getting more vaults. Right? You're getting vaults going into week 2 than you would have had, and you're killing it on the reclear, so you're getting double the loot, right? So you're talking about 10 mythic items. That is a significant amount of eye level. However, how much pulls is 10 pieces of mythic loot plus better vaults worth? I don't know, but it's a lot, right? It's nice. And maybe hopefully you don't want to be the first guild, but I think if this goes into week 2, I think people will end up doing the boss because of that scenario. I think. But if it's like really overtuned, like if you've got to the end of the fight and you would have to like giga optimize, and it looks like that would take you a long time, you might just fucking leave, right? So I don't know. It is interesting though.
Yeah, I'm like, there's a lot of cases where, like, imagine you're just spending all of Monday progressing a boss that's hard, right? Like, that could happen, and then you just would never go to this boss. But you're right. Like, I think I don't know. I guess it's pretty likely you choose to kill this, but I don't think it's guaranteed, and I think that's weird. I just don't think it should be optional. I don't know. I don't think it accomplishes anything good.
Wait, someone in chat potentially made up. They said plot twist. He's required for cutting edge achievement. Okay, so a few weeks ago that was not true, but it's possible in a recent build they hotfixed that in. If someone could check that, then that would just simply make it not optional, right? Because like if you're wondering why the race was considering skipping it, is like, yeah, the race is this community thing, and if whoever kills the last boss first is like deemed the in quotes community winner or whatever. The reality is the race to world first is whoever has number 1 on Hall of Fame on Blizzard's website. That's the actual like. No one would want to not be. No one's going to try to claim themselves as the actual winner while the history books on WoW's website are saying someone else was number 1, right? So if it's going to be on there and it's required, then it would definitely be for Hall of Fame or for Cutting Edge. I think it would be basically make it not optional. Someone in chat said, would there ever be a handshake to kill it? Like, oh, the guilds get together and they're like, hey, we need more content in the race anyway. Let's just require this boss for the race. What's the potential punish for that? Someone not involved with the race doesn't kill soul hunters and ends up winning. That's completely impossible to happen. So I guess you could do that. That just hasn't happened. Okay, whatever. Let's rank the boss. A little bit of an aside.
Yeah. But I'm happy to go. I don't know. I'm happy to go pretty high on this. Like, honestly, maybe A or S even. Like, seems like the best possible way to make a council fight. It's like mid to late, but not at the very end of the raid, but also not right at the start, and no annoying mechanics. I don't know. I'm pretty in.
Yeah, just imagine if it was actually true that this boss ended up being an S tier encounter, and imagine it was optional and people didn't have to do it. What are we even doing here? You make in that case it would have been probably the best council boss or one of the best council bosses ever, and you just made it so people didn't have to do it. Like, what's going on right now? So, and someone in chat said looks too chaotic. I just want to make one general note about that before we rank this, and it's about all of PTR. People often make this mistake where they see PTR where you have an hour to do a boss and nothing is like clean or figured out. It's completely YOLO'd and it looks really messy, and you end up having that change your opinion on whether you think a boss is going to look like shit or not. Where like if you can look ahead, you'll probably notice that like most of these things are going to look much cleaner once you copy a video and you get to this boss and that video is of a guild that like figured out how to make it look clean. It's just your interaction with this boss is gonna be different than what you're looking at right now. A perfect way to look at this is if you remember everyone every tier after PTR saying that melee is gonna be bad, and it's because no one has optimized these bosses for melee or even cared about it at all, and you just watch a PTR VOD of people having no idea what they're doing, and then you're like, well, melee are gonna be terrible this raid. People have said that about every raid for the last like 5 years, and it's basically never been true. So just an aside on that, but ranking it. So if it was as good as a council boss as you could make, that would make you want to put it in S tier, because why wouldn't it, right?
Yeah.
I have another
maybe
thought.
S tier, but because it's optional, it has to be A tier, because there's no amount of good that it can be where the optionalness is good.
Okay. I have another take. Is it possible that an S tier boss in World of Warcraft just isn't a council fight?
Maybe, yeah, maybe it's just inherently
Like,
not
yeah, your
possible for it to
Rygolons,
be.
your Manaroths, your Sludge Fists. Like, has there ever been a council boss that's been what you would actually consider an S tier encounter in this game? Like, I don't know. So, like, it could both be technically the best council boss to ever exist, and maybe that isn't an S tier WoW encounter, is what I'm saying. Maybe.
Maybe it seems pretty fun though. Like it seems like you're just gonna be blasting the boss and doing a bunch of fun mechanics, and it's got like really sick theme. Obviously, like the Demon Hunter theme is really strong, and the mechanics. Like you kind of understand a lot of the mechanics because they are just DH abilities that are well turned into boss mechanics.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to put it in S tier, but I'm fine with A.
Let's Council of Dreams a fight. Who hates this fight? Is it classes that don't cleave well? Is it
Yeah. If you're a pure single target guy, you're gonna not be happy.
is it
For sure.
immobile ranged getting the debuff dispelled
Yeah,
onto them,
maybe.
and you're yelling at them to soak around the room, and they're just fucking just sprinting around to every puddle and doing no damage? And it's kind of in a way like the duck mechanic on Council of Dreams in a little bit,
Maybe.
depending on how mobile you are. Is there are there people who get picked with a bad alpha in P2 in the intermission, and they're just getting yanked around as a melee away from the boss? Or like, I don't know. I don't think like all these things can be avoided. I'm just trying to future proof our guess here.
Maybe it is too annoying though for some people to be up in S. Like you're like if you're immobile single target ranged, this seems like a pretty awful experience.
Yeah, but then it depends
So-
on how many range you have. If you have 12 ranged in your raid, you're gonna get it pretty infrequently. But if you have like 8 ranged or like 7, you're just gonna like have this basically the whole time. So like that would, I don't know. If you, I'll leave it up to you. I'm probably closer to A, but if you want to do S, I'll fucking do it, and I'll be confident about it.
Okay, A.
Okay.
I'm chickening out.
Let's go to A. Cool. All right. Next we have Fractalus. Explain Fractalus for the people.
Yeah. So you have 6 crystals that are like shooting at the boss, and then the boss is going to put out 4 walls, and then you can break the walls also. And there's extra walls on Mythic that, yeah. And then you get the weak aura, and it tells you to go to Circle or Diamond or whatever, and you'd go there. But that's not out yet. But once it's out, that's how the fight's going to work.
Yeah, that's our ranking for this fight. Looking at it on PTR, when you look at a spreadsheet of how this would work, just like, okay, basic gameplay. Dranos was exactly right in a simple way, but for like what actually happens, the boss does a rotation of this. It does set of walls, which you're seeing right now. 4 people get picked with walls, and you have to put them in one of the 6 quadrants. And then it's going to do a tank mechanic where it picks a tank, and wherever the tank goes, right here, it's going to put 3 walls in that zone. And then it's going to do another set of walls. Don't worry if you're not following along. It's almost over. And then you can put out those 4 walls in one of the 6 quadrants. And then it's going to do a clear on 7 people. So at this point, you've put out 12 walls, right? You put out, I think 11 actually. You put out 11 walls, and they're going to give you 7 clears. So you see all these arrows? Now you can clear walls, but you still have 4 of them down. So you're going to continue to get walls as the fight goes on. You can't get rid of all of them. That's the point. And then it just repeats this until, a side note, whenever you get 6 walls in any zone, you instantly wipe. So you can't let that happen. Kind of like on some Tetris shit. So it's smart for you to like spread these out so that never happens. At a certain point, it's going to happen because they're simply putting out more walls than you can remove. But it just repeats that until the end of the fight. The other kind of mechanic on this fight is the walls each do something different. The first wall in each zone is the normal wall. When that one breaks, it just does little puddles on the ground. The second one is a heroic wall. When that one breaks, it does these spread circles on 7 players. And then the third one is the mythic wall. When that one breaks, it just does raid damage. So when you do these 7 clears, the cool part about it is you can kind of choose how much of each one of those you want in a way while still clearing as many walls as possible. If you only want to get no spread mechanics for one set, and pop a bunch of raid damage and stack up, you can. If you want to just purely spread and do no raid damage, you can. If you want to just do the normal ones, you can kind of do that. Like, you have a lot of creativity on what the fight looks like based on the choices you make, which is fucking dope, right? That's sick. Problem. When we rank this is going to be so hard to rank because I think for doing this during the race, I think Fractalus, and just in general, this is in the Sludge Fist part of the raid. This is the single target boss it's a really short Enrage, by the way. It's like 5 minutes. So like actual 5-minute single target sim being relevant for the first time ever. But it's a short single target boss near the end of the raid. In that way, it could be fun. But like it's totally just going to depend on tuning. But think about all this creativity we have. Dratnos hit it right on the head. Are you guys going to care about that? Like when you get to this boss and all it is a single target damage check, and you just have, whenever you get picked with this break right here, a weak aura just tells you to stand on X. Is that a good fight? You know, because that's just absolutely what it's going to end up being like.
Wait, mine also told me to go to X. Oh, your liquid weak auras are 2 versions out of date. They changed the formula in the recent one. Ooh, that sounds pretty nasty.
Yeah. Right? So that could be a problem. So it's like very Livum coded where like I feel like we're going to love this fight. I still feel like people could love this fight even if it's a like here's one thing to mention about weak aura bosses is you can have a boss where you get assigned a location a lot, but you don't hate that fight. Like that's you whenever I say that you think of Brood Twister, but Brood Twister was bad for so many different reasons, mainly private auras and just like inconsistency on where you're going. But like whenever we say weak aura bosses, I'm referring to like bosses where when you're doing them, it feels like you're progressing the weak aura more than the actual fight. And I think most people would agree with that sucks, right? This fight, while you are getting weak aura assignments a lot, I don't feel like anyone's going to feel like they're progressing a weak aura because the weak aura part of this is very fucking simple. You have a lot of time to get there. It's not like a quick thing like the bosses you're thinking of. This is like fucking piss. It's like super easy. So it's really going to be about the throughput, the damage you're taking, and dodging is going to be what this fight is like. And I don't know. It's so hard to guess where this ends up. What are you leaning towards?
I'm leaning towards B. It seems like it's got a core mechanic that's not going to be particularly fun to do. And then yeah, like it maybe is a good dodging single target DPS check if the DPS check is really tight. That could be fun in its own right, but I think it's got fairly limited upside unless you are a guild that is actually, not just following a weak aura for the walls and the breaks.
I think the fact that this fight is short matters a lot. I think
a cool part of this. Yeah.
I think people are big fans of short fights. I want to point out, someone in the chat said I feel like it's kind of like Echo of Neltharion in terms of weak auras. I want to just point out, not to like single this person, that could not possibly be more incorrect. Like what made Echo of Neltharion suck was initially you were looking off this like private aura list, which was terrible, and eventually it was pressing a macro and being told where to go. And then in the last phase, it was a map telling you exactly where to stand with like a reticle for where your current player was. That was why that boss was bad. This boss has none of those things. Like I don't think you're ever going to be assigned with anything and feel stressed to get there ever. It's just going to be simply telling you where to stand. And I just don't think that's frustrating. Like it's such an interesting line between like what makes weak auras bad. And I think a lot of it is like the negative interaction of feeling like it's the only thing that's hard about the fight. And I don't think that's what's going to be hard about this fight at all. And in that way, right. I think the weak auras shouldn't matter.
Yeah, like the core mechanic doesn't seem particularly difficult or interesting or fun to do, but also it's not going to be frustrating either. It's just going to be, you kind of do it and it's much easier than the DPS check.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, if this is for the race, I'm ranking this like an A probably, but I just know that our experience with this.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a B for most people, but I do think there will be people that just love, a 5-minute single target sprint. I do like that part of it a lot. So
I mean,
I'd be fine with A.
What's the world? Could this ever be an S tier fight? Like here's the scenario it's an S tier fight, I guess, is whenever very similar to Sludge Fist and Rashok actually, where when you killed those bosses, no matter what guild rank you were, you killed it after having to optimize damage for a while, and you had a bunch of low wipes and eventually killed it. Like, even if this fight feels pretty basic, could that end up being something that feels like good? Like, you kill this boss and you're like, holy fuck, we finally killed this fight.
Yeah, that I think is the big dub case for this fight for sure.
Oh,
or maybe somehow the wall mechanic is a lot more fun than I'm giving it credit for.
We are also missing a major mechanic. Well, as far as I know, it hasn't been added into the journal yet, but about half the guilds that tested this got it and half the guilds didn't. But there was a red circle mechanic that spawned, and basically how it worked is you guys see the knockback here. So 7 people are going to get assigned to get thrown into walls right now. When I show it right now. If you get knocked into the heroic wall, which is the 2nd wall and the 5th wall of any of these quadrants, you get a red circle on you that lasts infinite duration, and if you touch anyone with it, they die. So another version of this fight is, as you're going through the fight, more and more of your raid has this red circle that can't touch anyone else. That could make this like...
Yeah, there's mythic walls as well, right? That those make the swirlies dot?
No. The mythic walls purely do the raid damage dot.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the little swirlies on the ground are the normal walls, which is only the
right.
very, very first wall in every quadrant. So I think that adds a lot to the fight. Like, at least like playing it, I think that makes it a bit more interesting, because like it's gonna be hard to like dodge a bunch of shit on the ground while also not being able to run into people, but also you could just assign them a different quadrant, you know, shit like that. I think B's okay. It's like this boss is Taros coded and that boss owned. This is the Sludge Fist boss in the raid, which has like a straight up like a 40-60 hit rate on it being one of the best bosses ever. So part of me, just knowing pure history of the game, not thinking about the boss itself, this just has a chance to be one of the best bosses ever. It also looks really cool. But I think it's more likely it ends up being mid, so I'm okay with putting it down here. If you are, I don't know.
Yeah. I would lean towards B, but maybe it should go. No, I'd lean towards B, I think, because I do think the wall mechanic is just like a little bit of an underwhelming implementation of a mechanic for this kind of fight.
Yeah.
Okay. Nexus King.
Dude, King.
This fight, let's start by putting it in S tier, and then let's talk about it, because holy moly. This thing is,
yep, I would agree with that.
Are you an agreeer? Okay,
yeah, I'm 100% an agreeer, yeah.
Oh my god, dude, what a fight. First of all, like, there's so much stuff they're doing here that's new. Just, like, from a fight nerd perspective as well, the sequencing of this fight is super cool, where it's, like, P1, P2, intermission P2, like, that's novel, that's sick.
Yep. And then the last phase, I think the last phase of this fight is going to be the single most aesthetically pleasing phase that anyone's ever seen in World of Warcraft. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Also, oh my god, the mythic mechanic in the last phase is so cool, right? Where you have these orbs that are rotating around the boss, and you choose which lane to put these orbs in. And then on mythic, if they ever touch another orb, you die, but you also have to reverse their directions by hitting them with stuff. And so you're just like...
Yeah, I can give them a little visual. I can give them a visual of that. I just want to show them the rest of the fight first. So this is
let's start with P1.
So the only public testing that exists that made it even into P2 at all barely gets into P2. So I will show you at least up until that. But P1 very like Denathrius coded, where you get 3 stacks at the beginning, and then you have to soak something to remove a stack. And by the end of the phase, you need 0, or else you get MC'd. Other stuff that's happening during this, there's an Agrimar style tank mechanic, which is what you're looking at, and it's random every time, so you have to kind of figure out the different variations of it. And then there's these dragons on the edge of the room that shoot these shadow things at you. That's the baseline of the phase. The mythic mechanic of this, you're going to see right now. So at the end of every single tank mechanic, based on how many souls you have gone, so this player soaked once, and they went from 3 to 2 stacks. So because they have 2 stacks, they now have to dodge 1 soul. For every soul you are missing, which is the stacks, you have to dodge a soul going at you, or you have to look at it so it goes directly through you. If you don't look at it, the stack goes back onto your character. So look at the You'll see it right here. It's this little white thing. It goes down and it's going to shoot at him, and he looks at it and it goes through him and he solves the mechanic. If he would have not been looking directly at it, he would have gotten his stack back. At the end of this phase, as you go through the 3 tank mechanics before it phases, if you're at 0 stacks, you will have to dodge 3 of those souls in succession. So right now you see he has 1 stack, which means you have to dodge 2 souls. They spawn. He has the 1, you see 1 spawning here and then 2 spawning there. He doesn't look at 1, the stack goes back to him. He doesn't look at 2, the stack goes back to him again. So he's at 3 stacks. If they were to make it farther on this poll, he would be MC'd at the end of P1. So basically it's just, that is the construct, except the mythic mechanic is just that little soul dodging thing. After P1 goes away, and they barely limp through P1 in testing, but you'd be able to see the beginning of P2, which is kind of cool. So P2 spawns, hit the boss a little bit. The boss is going to jump on his mount, and then he's going to do these beams. He does like a little beam pattern, and the first one it just shoots through. The second one is going to start on the outside and then go in. So the safe spot here would be in the middle, and then it's going to do one immediately after, where it's going to do a different pattern. There's a bunch of other stuff with the beams, but as far as I think we've seen here, this is just the only pattern that we know of, and this is just what it does in P2. And as Dratno said, it's not like you do this P2 and then you do an intermission and then you go into P3 on some fight nerd shit. The boss does P2 right here for like 45 seconds, and then it shoots you to the intermission platforms in which you split up your raid half and half, you kill these ads, and you come back, and then you do another minute of P2 after that, and then you get the 30-second damage amp before you go into P3, which is, as far as I know, I don't think a fight has ever done that before, where they like mix up the intermissions in P2. I found that really sick.
Yeah, then it has this like damage burn where the boss is siphoning Voidwing, and Voidwing takes extra damage, and you want to just try and kill Voidwing while it's taking the extra damage, and if you don't, then the boss slurps up all the remaining health, so you have like a damage amp that's also really important to do. And then yeah, you can see the stars orbiting here in P2. Super cool.
Or P3.
Like a super cool dodge pattern. And you have a lot of agency as well over that, where you are choosing where to put each of them, right? Like they can go on these different orbits, and you choose whether to make like a Mercury or a Venus or an Earth or whatever.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and just explain the last phase real quick, because it's very simple, and in Mythic it's exactly the same thing. We're looking at a heroic VOD. There's no public testing VODs of Mythic P3 of Nexus King. So the boss does Galactic Smash. It's going to give you 2 sets of 3. Do you guys notice how 3 of these look like kind of like light purple, and then 3 of them are dark purple? That determines what direction they're going. It's not hard to understand either. Like it puts out the 3 of one direction first and then the 3 of the other direction, but you're supposed to stand in a certain spot. As soon as they go off, which you'll see in a second, they're going to do a Nexus Princess suck. So if they're not like equidistant, you'll just get sucked to a certain part of the room, right? So that there's an element of that. And then after the suck is over, you will see there's like a dodge pattern. So I'll just let it play out here. So the suck is happening right now. They're all getting sucked, but because they placed them spread out, they didn't get sucked in between. He pauses the video himself here for a second, but I'm just going to let it keep going. And now after that, they turn into these little dodge patterns. I wish you quit pausing it. All right, I'm going to let it play again. You can see, and now you have to like just find a way to kind of live this, right? Now, this is entirely deterministic. Where you place these will be how this turns out. There's one more mechanic that happens in P3 total, by the way. It's called Star Killer Swing. This is obviously really scuffed looking, but like their boss is going to cast Star Killer Swing here, and what it does is that goes on 3 different people, and those 3 people can shoot one of these things. In Heroic, it shoots them and gets rid of them, as you'll see. So Star Killer Swing's about to go off. He keeps rewinding it, so we can't actually see that, but here we go. So Star Killer Swing finishes its cast. Let's see how many they hit. They hit just that one, but they could have killed 3 of them there. And now those are gone forever, and then you get another Star Killer Swing. So in Heroic and Normal, you can actually spawn 6 orbs, and then you get 6 Star Killer Swing hits. So you could actually remove every single orb, and you could just repeat the phase over and over again, right? Okay. In Mythic, now you've noticed in Heroic that if these hit each other, like right now, you see these two right here on the diamond marker? Those 2 that just ran into each other. On Mythic, you blow up if that happens, number 1. And number 2, Star Killer Swing no longer removes these orbs. It makes them go the other way. So the Star Killer Swings have to be done in a way where you're going to potentially spawn like 3 or 4 sets of 6 fucking orbs. and they're going to all have to be orbiting around you without running into each other for you to be able to do this phase. Now imagine there's like 18 fucking things doing this dodge pattern, or they only suck the first time they go down, but they, other stuff happens. So this is going to look fucking crazy. And that is, I think one of the reasons we instantly put this into S tier is just really sick.
Yeah, I mean, just looks incredible. Seems like it'll be pretty fun to play. It's going to be one of those fights where you copy the, Liquid or Echo Strat or whatever, but I think that will still be fun. And I think you're still going to have to understand how it works, and I think the dodge patterns, like developing the muscle memory of learning how the stars are orbiting and what that means for what the dodge pattern is about to look like, I think is going to be super fun.
So someone in chat just said, it's pretty simple. You just make the inner ring 6 stars and only reverse those 6 stars. Well, when you put down 6 stars, they're going different directions, so you'd instantly wipe if you put them all in the inner. Let's say you put 2 sets going the same direction on the inner, one from the first set, one from the second set. There's like 20 or plus seconds in between star killer swings, so if you shoot 3 of them in the middle or in the inner ring, they're going to collide with the other 3 in their same orbit before the next star killer swing comes out. That won't work, right? It's I can tell you I've spent a lot of time thinking about how you do this phase, and I'm pretty sure we know exactly what we're going to do during this entire phase on Mythic right now, which is maybe another interesting part of this fight where I think this phase is really cool, but you're able to completely figure out this phase based on the information that you have before it even goes live. Obviously, they could change some things, but like, I think if there's one potential downside to this phase, even though it looks really cool and even though the fight's really great, once you're looking at if you're your guild, any guild that's going to look at a video to kill this fight, couldn't you have the same criticism of Fractalus you have here?
Yeah, but I think that this will be more fun to execute and I think that there's just going to have to be some element of understanding the mechanic before doing it, rather than just actually moving to the marker.
Okay, you're saying it's more fun to execute, but outside of a DPS check, what is the role of the player here any different than you get picked with Orbit, you get told to go to, let's just look at Kalamaz's POV right now, go to the diamond marker. Okay, I got told to go to diamond marker. All right, the only thing that happens for the next minute is 2 star killer swings happen and some dodges. Okay, well, dodges right now look crazy, so you're thinking about executing it. And it's like, how the fuck are we going to live this thing? Right here, right? Look, all this shit is everywhere, right? But like, isn't a really well-made version, isn't the VOD you're watching of this going to be like, basically you do like one movement and you solve this? So I think the potential breakdown of this from the someone who's killing this with a kill video, which is basically everyone, is you are maybe doing very little in this phase that otherwise looks really epic and really hard. So
yeah, if the strat that defeats this is really good, then maybe the play is less fun. But I kind of feel like there's going to be enough stars that even the good strat is going to be pretty hectic by the end.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I hope so too. Right. I'm just saying, like, if there's any potential downside, it's that. Like Gallywix is another example of this, right? I think clearly they put a lot of emphasis into how hard is it going to be for them to figure out this thing they don't know. And then clearly that wasn't like enough of the difficulty. They were relying too much on that. Like, if we figure out the last part of this phase, what is actually happening in the last phase? It's like basically nothing, right? So like, that's the only concern I really have for it. But also, I could just be totally wrong. They could add things to it from what it was on testing, and it could be just, way fucking crazier. I mean, I think pretty famously we tested Tindril, and I said, I said Tindril would die in 20 pulls based on what we saw in testing, and then they just made it the most cracked out fucking insane fight of all time. So, like, stuff like that could always happen. But, and someone in chat has a good point. Someone said that's kind of the same argument as Nexus Princess, and people generally like that fight. That's a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the amount of individual, adjustment you're going to have to do here is a lot higher than Fractalus, but that, you're right. It could be a very similar experience.
And the other thing we didn't show you, because the Mythic testing didn't get that far, was this. So you're in P2. Okay, he keeps pausing. Oh my god. I mean, he's explaining the boss. It's not his fault, but like, you get out of P2, you get done with those beams. Okay. And then now you're doing a 30-second damage amp. Also, another thing about P2 is you can hit the boss and the ad, like kind of like the last boss in Ruby Life Pools. You can target either of them here. like in the entirety of P2. But then you get this King's Hunger phase, and for 30 seconds, the main dragon has a huge damage amp, and for whatever amount of health is left on this dragon, it goes into the boss, and it all counts for P3. It's very cool, and I just think this is purely like a race thought, but like you're gonna see the last phase of Nexus King on your other monitor. You're just going to be browsing through Twitch. Oh, the Race World First is on. That's cool. And then you just randomly tune into the last phase of this fight, and your ass is going to be in that seat until the end of the race. It's just going to look too fucking cool. And watchable bosses is like a huge thing. So I think that'll really matter.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of those bosses as well that's just like, because it looks nice, that's going to make it more fun to prog as well.
Yep. All of that matters. Not to mention, I think P1 is going to be like really good. I think P1 is going to be like an all-time great, like second to last boss or end boss phase. It's very Sarkareth. It's like 2 minutes long. It's a shitload of healing. Dodging matters, like very similar to Rashok, actually, like kind of dodging. And then like that little mythic mechanic soul thing. I just think that's just like a really replayable phase. It's really short. It's really fun to heal. I think that's going to be like another great part. There's like not a single part of this fight that I don't like.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, so I mean, we already put it in S tier, so nothing to see here.
Yep. S tier. Do we want to do any speculating about Dimensius?
Sure. I mean, I would just go into every tier just assuming that the end boss is probably going to be S. That's just like more often than not correct. But what we know about Dimensius is also pretty cool. So I'll just describe a few basic concepts. I'm not going to like plan out the whole fight for you, but just to show you some like basic ideas. P1, potentially like N'Zoth, you're gonna get some circles that spawn on the whole raid. So like you maybe want to place them like this and move to the left of them. Maybe you put them in the back and then move forward. No one knows. The boss is huge, like the size of fucking Stormwind. You can use this whole platform, assuming melee range is pretty far. You get these mechanics from killing ads that make you able to like pull people back. At some point is going to like raise like people up and try to suck them in, and the people who have those buffs will like save them and bring them back down. And at the end of the phase, you just need to like collide as a raid. We don't know if they're going to make you like split left and right or move as one big group, but there's reason to believe that from a few mechanics that you would either start as the raid in the middle and then kind of have one raid go to the left and one go to the right and then meet back in the middle for every phase, or whether you're going to move over the side as a group. That's all I'll really say about P1. There's actual mechanics happening, but just not a huge deal. P2, unknown yet at this point whether you're going to be splitting the raid or whether the entire raid is going to go together to two different platforms. But you're going to do this, these like two phases where there's some Razageth winds pushing you from where the boss came from, and there's these ads, these void wardens you can't run into. You'll also dragon ride to these with your cloak, but the dragon riding's like a little different. Won't go too much into that, but I think it's like a better version of Tindrill's, but I also think Tindrill's dragon riding was fine. Yep, there's like an ad phase kind of, but also you're mainly just hitting one major target on each platform. And then you get back to the last platform. The boss is back at 100% HP. He's much smaller. I don't know the exact size to expect, but just not the size of Stormwind, but here's the platform. He's going to be in the middle. Main bit of this is it's like Razageth P3 in the way that the edge of the room is going to start. This is actually not going to be a good way to show this, but like the edge of the room is
it's like stormy on the edge and then comes in.
Yeah, so as you do more and more of this phase, you'll have less and less room to play in, is the bit. Which was a fine... Razageth P3 was flawed for a lot of reasons. That wasn't one of them. That general thing is happening. Some other general mechanics that are happening in this phase is like the gravity mechanics. So there's going to be a bunch of people that get gravity and a bunch of people that get reverse gravity. And the people who have gravity need to go with those other people. Like think, who knows, a certain amount of like reverse gravity people, and like 6 people can't cleave each other and are each gonna have to find their way soaking one of these things. Who knows exactly the amount of all of those that go out, but that's just like a general thing that will happen. The boss has these like little, I guess we could call them like black holes, or they eventually become black holes, but like that are like spread out around the room.
These things you need to stand in when you have 100 energy to not die. But also they become black holes that keep moving in with the circle. So imagine they're like spread out around the room. Like the end of this fight is probably going to be like you have a little bit of room to play here, and like the rest of it is all black holes that have been sucked in. There's a few other mechanics, but I'll just go over one other major one. Desausage. So if you guys remember the Sepulcher fight, the boss will be like here. Or the boss could be wherever, but there's going to be 3 things that happen. It'll spawn from here. This isn't going to look exactly right because of where I'm dragging it, but like this thing's going to grow throughout the room, and there's who knows how many there's going to be. Let's say there's 3 of them, right? You have a 6-second debuff after getting hit by one of these, that if you get hit by another one, you basically get one shot. So porting through these will be important if possible, or otherwise creating a movement pattern where you are able to get hit by all 3 of them without them happening too close to each other. And these are all happening at the same time, all the mechanics in different variations. But that's like the general vibe of the last phase. But that's the Dementius in a nutshell. That's the TLDR version of it. But that's like the general flow of the fight.
Yep, looks sick. I don't know. I agree. Assume S tier for end boss and then adjust downwards as needed. And this one seems like an above average, dungeon journal for an end boss.
Yep, W. All right, so where does this stand? There's no bosses we absolutely hate. When was the most recent boss after testing that we ranked a C or a D or below?
I don't remember. Was there one in Liberation?
I'm
looking it up.
Oh yeah, Rick Reverb, right? But didn't Rick Reverb seem bad?
Yeah, we put Rick Reverb in C.
That ended up being kind of true.
Yeah, that boss was kind of aggressively mid.
It's trying so hard to not be good or bad.
It was, yeah, I mean, it was worse than that. There was a lot of annoying stuff on that. Not to mention the fact that it just never worked proper. Like, it never was consistent. The stupid MC and the intermission. But whatever, that's last tier. Yeah, I mean, this seems like an above average opener.
I think in Aberrus, we ranked both Echo of Neltharion and Skarn in S tier. So that was like kind of a miss. Different thing than what we're talking about right now. But like, I don't think that was our fault. To be fair though, because like Skarn was a good fight. They just made a really weird change with it that made it terrible. And then
we did a really try-hard tier list in Nerebar as well, but we gave out a bunch of like C pluses and C minuses and stuff.
Did that end up working out? Were we right?
We were okay. We had Ophanax as a C minus, with Civilian being the reason that it was Civilian and Execution being bad. Yeah, we're pretty spot on actually.
All right, fuck yeah. All right, I think that's the end, but I just want to get a quick thing. I'm not going to have you do poll counts. I'm just going to say, do you think this is going to be like a historically hard or easy tier, or do you think it's going to lie somewhere in the middle?
I would guess middle, harder than last tier, easier than the average end of expansion raid. Like when you compare it to Amir Drasil and
Jailer.
Jailer tier and even like Argus and N'Zoth tiers. Like this seems, first of all, it's got less bosses than all those raids. It's an 8-boss end of expansion raid, which is much less than they usually do for an end of expansion one. And yeah, I feel like it's not going to be as hard as all those, but I do think it'll be harder than the average tier.
All right, W. That works. Okay.
All right.
Thanks for coming on today.
GG.
All right, GG. See you later.
Bye.
All right. Why are you guys? It's already over 2 hours. I mean, I am ending stream, but I feel like you're overreacting. In a way. Max, based on the existing mechanics, what do you think of the puggability of the first 4 bosses? I think you're not pugging the 4th boss for a long time, but I think if you can do 2 in this raid, you can do 3, which doesn't get you an extra vault, but gets you some more mythic loot, I guess. I hope trash is just better this season. I don't mean less, but just straightforward. There's a ton of trash in this raid. That's always true. That's one of the funniest, like, just two different types of WoW player thing, who the Blizzard is designing for versus who, like, does a ton of their raids. Is like, when I look at trash, I'm like, bro, why does trash exist? It's just a waste of our time. And so many people I know that watch this stream especially feel that way. But I know Blizzard would never, like, take trash out of raids because they care so much about the scale. Like, they want you to walk into this raid and be like, holy shit, we're actually in this massive zone. And look how many enemies are defending this castle. It wouldn't make sense if there weren't any, like, security guards guarding all these important bad people in here that we're here to kill. Like, that's the reason why there's trash. And, like, you can be a gameplay only person like me and just be like, that's total nonsense, get it the fuck out of my game. But Blizzard will actually never not do that. They care so much more about that than anything else. Unless it ever doesn't make sense based on the raid. Like, they've made some smaller raids in the past where it, like, wouldn't have made sense for there to be trash in there. Like, Trilo Crusader is one of the examples where it's like you're in, like a tournament kind of thing. Undermine would have been so weird without trash. Yeah, the trash thing about Undermine that blows my mind is the coolest part of the raid objectively was when you're in the casino, but you never want to be in there. It's all one big trash skip. Like, the coolest aesthetic in the entire patch is something you want to skip because of the amount of trash in it. That just seems like a miss. All right, yo, it's been real. We'll catch you guys when we catch you. Yerd. I gotta fix my overlay actually. Oh, my dogs. They think they know what's happening, but do they? Dude, my overlay is so weird. There we go. That'll fix it. All right. Anyways.